They never noticed when I was early, but they definitely noticed if the coffee was late. That was my role, the invisible oil in the corporate machine. Email confirmations?
Me.
Catering for meetings?
Me.
Last-minute PowerPoint changes at 2 a.m. for a VP who couldn't open Google Slides?
Me.
And yet, when the company newsletter came out every quarter, I wasn't listed once. No team highlights. No employee spotlight. Not even in the fine print. Before I continue, please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Here, we don't just tell stories. We tell truths, the kind that heal, confront, and sometimes transform. Now, let's continue. I started at Pearl and Lynch right out of college. It was supposed to be temporary, a 6-month admin contract. But like most women taught to be agreeable, I worked harder instead of smarter, said yes instead of that's not my job. And 1 year turned into 3. I became known as Danny the Fixer. Not in a cool Olivia Pope way. In a dump this on her desk, she'll figure it out way. The executives walked past my cubicle with barely a nod. Except when they needed something. Urgently, of course. Usually during lunch. Danny, can you get the Q3 deck printed again? We're missing one. Danny, the Wi-Fi's acting up, can you call IT? Danny, could you grab some more bottled water for the client meeting? No one asked if I had eaten. No one remembered my birthday. Once, I got a promotion offer. Junior Operations Coordinator. Sounded fancier, same pay. I took it. Because I still thought titles meant progress. They don't. They mean they need you to do more, without asking for more. And I did. For another year. The turning point came on a Tuesday. Rainy. Quiet. Nothing special. I was called into the executive conference room. Glass walls, leather chairs, polished egos. They were doing early planning for a big merger announcement. I wasn't part of the strategy team. I wasn't supposed to be in the room. I assumed I was there to take notes. But someone had emailed the wrong Danielle. They meant to invite the VP of Strategy, Danielle Lee. Not Danielle Stone, the assistant who ran around with clipboards and thankless diligence. But I stayed. Because I wanted to see. The room buzzed with jargon and half-baked ideas wrapped in overconfidence. I watched as they fumbled through budget forecasts, contradicting each other, citing outdated numbers, guessing like amateurs in suits. And then someone, the CFO, looked at me and said, Danny, be a dear and get us more markers, would you? I nodded, left the room. But not for markers. I went to my desk, opened a spreadsheet I had quietly been maintaining for 6 months, tracking expense inefficiencies across departments. Something no one asked me to do. Then I printed it, walked back in, and handed it to the CFO. Here are your projections, I said. Page 3 is where it unravels. The room went still. He flipped through it. So did the COO. Then the VP of Sales. Their faces shifted, confusion to surprise to something close to embarrassment. You made this, one of them asked. I've been updating it weekly, I replied. Just in case you ever needed clarity. That night, I didn't stay late. I left at 5:01, while they were still rereading a spreadsheet built by a ghost they never saw. The next morning, I was summoned. Not to HR. To the corner office. The CEO's.
He was calm.
Collected. Trying to appear neutral. You made quite the impression yesterday, he said. I said nothing. That document, it was accurate. Impressive, even. But you shouldn't have been in that meeting. I didn't ask to be, I replied. Someone CC'd the wrong Danielle. Well, next time, don't speak unless asked. There it was. The ceiling. The real one. Not the metaphorical glass, the concrete one, reinforced with egos and old-school hierarchy. He didn't want my insight. He wanted me quiet, efficient, obedient. That weekend, I applied to grad school. Business analytics. Night program. I also started sketching the idea for my own consultancy. Not a dream I'd been chasing, but a need I'd finally recognized. They only notice you when you're gone, or when you make them uncomfortable. I stayed at Pearl and Lynch for 8 more months. During that time, I said less and learned more. I kept notes on how departments bled money, who faked their numbers, who relied on people like me to do work they couldn't. I built a blueprint in silence. Not for them. For me. The day I quit, I left a thank you email. It wasn't bitter. It was professional, respectful, and carefully BCC'd to every client I had worked with, attaching a new email signature. Danielle Stone, Strategy and Systems Consultant, Independent. 2 months later, one of their former partners emailed me. We want to build something smarter than Pearl and Lynch.
Can we talk?
My new email address was barely 2 months old when the first former client of Pearl and Lynch reached out. They'd seen my name on a project I managed in the background, one where the execs took all the credit, while I quietly fixed a major budget discrepancy no one else had caught. The message was short. You're the one who made that merger model work, right? Let's talk. We're building something leaner.
Smarter.
Less ego, more efficiency. I read it 3 times. Then I replied with one word. Coffee. We met in a quiet cafe on the east side. His name was Alec Torres, sharp, observant, and unapologetically forward-thinking. A managing partner at a mid-sized private equity firm tired of bloated pitches from legacy firms with shiny logos and no substance. You were the only one who knew what was actually happening in those rooms, he said. And you had no voice. That's a waste of talent. It wasn't a compliment.
It was a recruitment pitch.
He offered a consulting contract, right there, one I would own completely. I'd be helping one of his portfolio companies clean up their operations. No red tape. No executive drama. Just strategy and execution. I said yes. That job turned into 3. Then 5. Then I registered my LLC and changed my email signature again. Danielle Stone, Principal Consultant, Stone Insight Group. I didn't take a salary for the first 3 months. Every cent went back into systems, software, and legal protection. Because this time, I wasn't just building a business. I was building a firewall between me and the kind of workplace that had almost erased me. Word started spreading. Apparently, the industry had more people like me than I thought. Overlooked analysts, silent coordinators, admin lifelines who ran the show from behind the curtain. And when they heard what I was doing, they reached out. Are you hiring? Can you mentor me? How do I do what you did? At first, I said no. I was still small, still learning. But then I realized that was the point. If I waited until I felt big enough, I'd be waiting forever. So I started building a team. 3 months later, I hired Lena, a former junior associate who had quit after being micromanaged to burnout. Then Hadi, a financial analyst who'd been passed over 3 times for promotion despite running an entire reporting system alone. I paid them fairly, asked for input, let them say no. Radical things, apparently. Then one morning the past came calling. An email. From Pearl and Lynch. Not a mass newsletter. A direct inquiry. Hi Danielle. We're currently restructuring our operations post-merger. We've been referred to your team as a possible efficiency partner. Would you be open to a conversation? Stephanie, VP, Strategy and Transformation. I almost laughed. They didn't recognize the irony. The assistant they once forgot in every meeting, now a recommended solution to their chaos. I forwarded it to Lena. She replied, please tell me we're taking this call. So I did. We set a video meeting. I wore black, simple, structured. Lena joined in too, notebook in hand, poised like the sharp strategist she was. Stephanie, the VP, logged in late, frazzled. Still had executive entitlement in her posture. Danielle, thanks for taking the time. We've been having issues with department silos, budget misalignments, and some culture friction post-merger. I nodded. I'm aware. Some of your former clients now work with us. Her eyes narrowed slightly. She blinked.
Right.
Well, we'd love your outside perspective.
You had it once, I said.
Excuse me? Inside perspective. For 3 years. Her jaw clenched just slightly.
Ah.
Yes, right. You were with us in admin? Lena stifled a smirk. I was in systems, I corrected. You just didn't look. We got through the call. I was direct.
Clear.
Professional. But I didn't mask who I was anymore. They wanted the brain they ignored, now that it wore a different title. After the meeting, Lena turned to me and said, Are we really going to help them? I thought about it. Helping would be poetic. But I remembered something I once wrote in my journal. Not everyone deserves access just because they finally notice your value.
So I declined.
Politely. Unfortunately, we're at capacity with clients aligned to our values. Which was true. And delicious. A week later, Alec Torres emailed again. He'd heard about the meeting. I hope you charged them double. Or told them no. Both, I replied. And just like that, the assistant no one remembered became the name passed around boardrooms for getting things done. Not loudly. Not vengefully. Just better. Because that's the thing about quiet people. We're not here to make noise. We're here to change the room. Success has a strange echo. Sometimes it sounds like applause. Other times it sounds like ghosts, voices from your past whispering, "Let's see how long this lasts." I was 3/4 into my first real fiscal year running Stone Insight Group, and business was solid. Not viral. Not flashy. Just quietly respected. The way I liked it. We had 4 retainer clients. 1 new partner. A reputation for discretion, results, and zero tolerance for ego-driven chaos. So, when an offer came from a global firm, I should have seen the red flags. Instead, I saw an opportunity. It came from Kavanaugh Ross, a sleek, high-revenue consultancy that had been around for decades. They were struggling. Not in profits, but in relevance. Their systems were outdated. Their digital pivot was failing. They needed someone who could come in, audit their processes, and rebuild quietly, without embarrassing their board. We were referred through Alec again. He called it a soft back-channel opportunity. The money was double our biggest contract. The timeline was short, 8 weeks. The deliverables were aggressive. But what made me hesitate? Their head of operations was a man named Tristan Chase. The same man who once sat across from me at Pearl and Lynch and referred to me as Danny, the help. He didn't remember me. At least not at first. The kickoff meeting was in their Manhattan office. All glass and steel. Exactly the kind of place that forgets how humans function when things break down. Tristan entered 10 minutes late, no apology. "Let's make this quick," he said, not even glancing at me. Typical. I kept my tone neutral. "We've already reviewed your intake brief. There's a structural bottleneck in your procurement chain and unnecessary layering in project ownership. You're essentially burning time managing reporting instead of performance." That got his attention. He looked up, squinted. "Wait, have we worked together before?" "Yes," I said calmly. "Where?" "Pearl and Lynch." A beat passed. Then he scoffed, the kind of dismissive chuckle people use when their past arrogance gets called into the room. "You were admin support or something, right? I was the person who fixed your expense audit when you forgot to update your reimbursement sheets for 3 months. His face didn't flush. He was too practiced. But he knew. Back at our office, Lena rolled her eyes. "I don't trust him." "We're not here to trust him," I said. "We're here to audit the system and get out." Still, something gnawed at me. Was I doing this to help, or to prove a point? 3 weeks in, the answer came. We delivered our interim report. It was surgical. We identified 7 process leaks, 4 cross-departmental redundancies, and an entire onboarding cycle that created more confusion than clarity. I expected resistance. Instead, I got praise. Public, loud, glowing praise. Tristan took to LinkedIn, writing, "We've partnered with Stone Insight Group, a boutique consultancy with sharp insight and sharper leadership. They've identified key accelerators for our Q4 push." My inbox exploded. People from Pearl and Lynch messaged me. "Is this the same Tristan who used to ignore you in meetings?" Wild. He's finally learning. Glad someone's finally recognizing what we always saw. But praise is a tricky drug. It's addicting. And it almost cost me everything. Because the next phase of the project got messy. Tristan began inserting himself into our reports, rewording findings to soften blame on his department. He started CCNG board members on private strategy emails, claiming transparency. He even called one of my analysts directly and tried to redirect our workflow without consulting me. I pulled him into a video call.
Alone.
We need to be clear about roles, Tristan. You hired us to fix what you broke. You don't get to ghost edit solutions to protect your image.
He smirked. You're smart, Danielle.
But don't forget, reputation cuts both ways. I leaned back.
Exactly.
That's why we keep receipts.
His face changed. Slightly.
I emailed his boss that night, calmly, professionally. Outlined the changes Tristan had attempted. Attached documentation. Offered to complete the audit as scheduled, but noted we would not tolerate interference. The CEO responded personally. Understood. Please continue, without operational input from Tristan. The next 6 weeks flew by. We finished the audit.
We trained their staff.
We rewrote their reporting model from scratch. And then we walked away. No bonus request. No upsell pitch. Just clean closure, and our logo now quietly listed in their annual report. I sent a team-wide note that night. Subject line: we don't perform. We transform. The next day, Tristan called me. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. You're good. I'll give you that. I didn't think you had it in you.
Congrats.
I deleted it. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally did about the right things. I no longer needed to prove my value to people who only respected it when they could use it. I no longer sought recognition from names that once buried mine in footnotes. I had clients who trusted us, a team that believed in our work, and a brand built on clarity, not clout. And that was louder than revenge. You know you've truly leveled up when your calendar is filled with collaboration meetings instead of crisis control. That's where I found myself, not buried in approval chains or endless revisions, but in conversations that actually mattered. Partnerships, strategy, team growth. For once, my days didn't revolve around fixing other people's messes. They revolved around building something that couldn't be ignored. One Thursday afternoon, I got a message that stopped me mid-email. Subject line: internship inquiry. Inspired by your work. It was from a student named Jasmine Rivera, 21, finishing her undergrad in business systems and analytics. The email was long, nervously worded, but heartfelt. I've followed your firm since I found your article on invisible labor in corporate strategy. I've been told I'm too quiet to lead, and I thought that was true until I read how you turned that into your superpower. I don't know if you offer internships, but I'd love a chance to learn from you. I stared at the screen for a long time, because 10 years ago I was Jasmine. Hungry, polite, eager not to be a burden, and so damn smart it scared people who needed to feel bigger. I forwarded the email to Lena. She replied immediately.
Yes.
100% yes. Let's not become the people who ignored us. Jasmine joined us part-time. At first, she was hesitant to speak in meetings. She took notes obsessively, like they'd be tested. She emailed before asking questions, a reflex from years of being told her curiosity was inconvenient. But over time, I saw her relax. During one strategy call with a logistics client, she softly pointed out a gap in their vendor onboarding flow. The room paused. I looked at the client. She's right, I said. That moment changed everything. Jasmine blossomed. Not loudly, not overnight, but steadily. Like someone who finally believed their voice was safe in the room. That's when it hit me. All this time, I thought I wanted revenge on the system that silenced me. But what I really wanted was to become the person I never had. Not just at work, but in the mirror. We started a new initiative at Stone Insight Group, a mentorship circle, built specifically for young professionals from overlooked backgrounds, women immigrants, first-gen grads, former assistants. We didn't post about it online. We didn't package it for PR. We just did the work. Monthly Zoom calls. 1:1 coaching. Actual skill building, not just inspiration. One night after a session, Jasmine lingered behind. Can I ask you something kind of personal? Always. How did you stop feeling like you had to earn your place in the room? I paused. Because the truth is, sometimes I still do. You don't unlearn it all at once, I said. But you build evidence. Every time you show up, every time you speak, Every time you don't let someone talk over you, you prove to yourself that you belong. She nodded. It just feels like everyone else walks in like they already own the room. That's because they were told they could. We weren't. But guess what? She looked up. We're telling each other now. The next week, Jasmine led a client presentation on her own. And crushed it. The client was stunned. So were we, not because she had it in her, but because we could see that she finally believed she did. I sat in the back, watching her own the screen. Her slides crisp, her voice steady, her data airtight. She didn't apologize once. Didn't defer. Didn't shrink. Later that day, Lena sent me a text. I think we just raised a giant killer. I smiled, because that was the point. The funny thing about success is that it doesn't always roar. Sometimes it shows up in the quiet confidence of someone you've mentored. In the email that says, "Thank you for seeing me." In the message that says, "You showed me what was possible." And that feels better than any headline. Better than any LinkedIn praise post. Better than proving anyone wrong. Because eventually you stop needing to burn the system down. You just build a better one next door and leave the door open for people like you. That year, we doubled our client base. But what I bragged about wasn't revenue. It was the retention, the culture, the quiet trust. One of our core team members, Hadi, said it best during our end-of-year wrap-up. This place feels like proof that doing it the right way actually works. Sometimes people from my past reach out. Old bosses, former mentors who once told me I was too reactive. Executives who asked me to take notes but never took my advice. They send messages now like, "So proud of all you've built. Saw the Forbes mention. Incredible work. We always knew you were going places." And I just smile, because I don't need to reply. The work replies for me. We were 21 months in. Stone Insight Group was no longer just promising. We were profitable, sustainable, sought after. We had scaled to a full-time team of 6, with 2 rotating analysts and 3 long-term retainer clients who gave us strategic freedom. And then, like clockwork, the acquisition email landed in my inbox. Subject line: Private opportunity, confidential discussion. It was from a boutique capital group based in Boston. They weren't a startup. They were legacy. They'd acquired 2 consultancies in the past 3 years and were quietly assembling a network of next-gen strategy firms. The offer? Absorb our team. Rebrand us under their name. Hand me a VP title. And deposit a 7-figure buyout into my personal account. It was flattering. It was also tempting. That night, I walked circles around my apartment. I'd always said I didn't build this to sell. But now, here was the offer every entrepreneur dreams about. And I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I brought it up to Lena and Hadi on our weekly leadership sync. "This is huge," Hadi said. "I mean, financially, it's generational." "It's legitimacy," Lena added. "This is how people see we've arrived." They weren't wrong. But my stomach twisted. "Do you think it changes the culture?" I asked. Lena didn't answer at first. Then, "If we don't protect it, yes." The firm offered to fly me out to Boston for a private dinner. I said yes. I needed to see them. Not the spreadsheets. The people. The steakhouse was dim and expensive, the kind of place where power didn't shout. It smirked behind small plates and quiet flexes. Across from me sat Thomas Greer, partner at Stanton Brook Capital. Tailored suit. Perfect teeth. Worn charm. He smiled as I sat. "Danielle. The woman everyone keeps talking about." I smiled back, measured. "I'd like to believe it's for the right reasons." He laughed. "You've built something rare. Clean, client-loyal, founder-driven. We're not looking to change it, we're looking to scale it." He laid it out clearly. Equity rollover. Leadership retention. Support staff expansion. Capital infusion to 10x our operations. "Your name will be on every deck," he said. "But not on the company. Not anymore." I asked about culture. He pivoted to numbers. I asked about autonomy. He pivoted to projections. I asked about who'd keep hiring authority. He smiled and said, "We'll be collaborative." I've heard that before. It's code for, you'll be heard, not followed. I flew home in silence. No music. No celebratory texts. Just reflection. The next day, Jasmine stopped by my office. She had just landed a freelance contract with one of our partner firms, her first big solo deal. I couldn't have done this without you, she said, eyes bright. I didn't tell her about the offer. Not yet. Because suddenly I felt protective. Not just of the business, but of what it represented. Stone Insight wasn't just my company. It was proof for every former assistant, every quiet girl in the meeting, every person who thought respect had to be begged for, that you could build power differently. Quietly. Ethically. Sustainably. That night, I reread the offer. Then I wrote a reply. Thank you for your generous interest. However, Stone Insight was built to exist outside traditional frameworks, to serve clients and professionals who've been underserved by the usual models. For that reason, we're choosing to remain independent. Best of luck in your continued search. Danielle Stone. Then I turned off my laptop and opened a journal. I wrote, maybe success isn't exiting what you've built. Maybe it's staying and protecting it from becoming the very thing you left. The next day, we had a team meeting. I told them about the offer.
Lena looked relieved.
Hadi nodded slowly. So what now? He asked. Now, I said, we stop playing defense. And we design our legacy before someone else tries to own it. We launched an internal initiative called Open Room, a mentorship and micro-consulting incubator for former corporate support staff ready to build businesses of their own. We didn't announce it on social. We didn't chase praise. We just built. And word spread. Not fast,
but deeply.
I still think about the money, the comfort, the you've made it validation. But then I remember, I didn't start this to escape discomfort. I started it to build a world where quiet power didn't have to ask permission. It was a sunny October morning when I walked past the building where it all started. Pearl and Lynch's old office, now just another steel and glass shell in a sea of startups and tech stacks. They had moved HQ across town months ago. Someone new had taken the lease. The logo was gone. The glass was cleaner. And for the first time, I didn't feel anything.
No heat in my chest.
No sting behind my eyes. Just silence, the good kind. The kind you earn. I had a meeting nearby, mentoring a new founder, a sharp 26-year-old ex-project coordinator named Asha. She was building a resource network for women in back-office roles, helping them upskill into client-facing leadership. Everyone tells me it's too niche, she said as we sat for coffee. That no one's interested in helping assistants level up. I smiled. Then they've never seen what happens when assistants run the room. She blinked, then nodded slowly. Later that week, I was asked to give a keynote at a leadership retreat, not for executives but for operations managers and coordinators. People who, like me, kept the lights on but never got the spotlight. I almost said no. Not because I wasn't honored, but because I was tired. Tired of explaining the value of invisible labor. Tired of having to make it sound powerful just to get attention. But then I thought of Jasmine, of Asha, of every version of me still sitting in meetings with their mouth shut and their spine tight. And I said yes. The room wasn't huge. Maybe 120 people. Mostly women. Mostly first-gen professionals. Some still fresh in the corporate machine. Some burned out and looking for a way out. I stood at the front, no slides, no deck. Just me. And I said, there's a reason people undervalue what we do. Because if they admitted how much power sits behind that admin title, they'd have to question the entire system. Heads nodded. I kept going. You don't have to be loud to be effective. You don't need a corner office to be a leader. You just need clarity. And the courage to stop shrinking. Silence. Then applause. Not polite. Not performative.
Real.
After the talk, a woman approached me. Late 40s. Tired eyes. But something fierce underneath. I stayed in the same role for 18 years, she said. I trained 5 bosses. Got passed up 3 times. I thought it was too late to change. Is it? She asked, half smile. I looked her in the eye. Not if you're asking. That night, I sat alone in my apartment. No fanfare. No event recap. Just me, a glass of wine, and the quiet hum of a life built from scratch. My inbox pinged. It was a LinkedIn message from someone I hadn't heard from in years. Tristan Chase. Saw your talk got shared. Didn't realize the assistant we overlooked would become the one changing the game. I guess we all learn. Eventually. No apology. Just admiration, wrapped in ego. I didn't reply.
Didn't need to.
I archived the message and opened my journal instead. I wrote, "Full circle doesn't mean returning to the place you started. It means returning as someone they can't ignore." And I meant every word. Stone Insight Group now runs with a leadership team of 4 and a network of over 30 contract specialists across 4 continents. We've helped streamline nonprofits, advise social impact startups, and train corporate teams in building systems that don't crush the people inside them. We've mentored 40-plus women through Open. And just last week, Jasmine pitched her own first retainer client and landed them. "You're not building a company," she told me. "You're building a different future." And maybe she's right, because the goal was never just independence. It was impact. Not revenge, not validation, just a quiet kind of justice. A justice that says, you were never small. You were just surrounded by people who needed you to be.